Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the talk, think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American did find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One, and we're still in Memphis. And I want to bring back the brother who we had on last night, so he can hit some points that we may have just glossed over, and we think the people should, understand what he's talking about. So we're going to do that, but this information that we're sharing, please to share this with your friends, your family for these holidays. This is the kind of stuff you can pass on because these brothers are talking about life sciences. Life sciences is something that's not really taught anymore, but should be taught. So these brothers are going to get into some stuff that we should pay attention to that'll be better for the whole mankind, really, for the world, seriously. We have to listen to what these brothers are saying because it's information that we always get a lot of dumb stuff in our music, on the TV, and the movies. It's always some negative, stupid shit. And this brother's coming a whole nother way. So I hope this information isn't taken in vain. So I'm don't like to talk long. I like to get the stuff out. So I'm gonna shut up. And this is Teacher coming back at us again, and we're gonna pick up from where we left off last night. Regeneration Part 2. What's going on, teacher?
How you doing, Buck? And I would like to say good evening to everybody. You know, I don't want to come and be all gloom and doom, but if we don't get prepared for the gloom and doom and the bad, because everything ain't gonna be always good, good, good. You have to be also prepared for the bad too. If you can take good compliments, you can take the bad compliments. And I also want to say this. I like keeping it real, and I shared something with Buck uh, before we came on the channel, and it made me feel kind of sad on the inside. But I feel like if I share my own personal experience with the audience, then you can really understand where I'm coming from about this vibrational shift. This past Thanksgiving, I'm not gonna go all the way into it, but I was left standing on the porch of a relative's house, me, my walk beside, and our granddaughter. And we end up having to turn around, go get in the car, and leave. And the reason, it would may shock you, but you have to keep your cool. You have to understand that this vibrational shift is causing things that you wouldn't normally see. But anyway, I'm done with that. But anyway, good evening to everybody, and I'm glad to be back to try to give to bring fill in the gaps from last night.
Cool, man. Well, listen, all everything is going to work itself out, and it's all good. So, what we want to talk about is you were talking about last night about regeneration. Could you give us a quick recap on that? Talking about regeneration, what's going on now with the planet, and what's going on with us as people?
Yes, regeneration is almost similar to recycling. Uh, Taking what's here and recycling it for the next project or the next endeavor. The earth is going to go through a regeneration cycle, and it's going to make the old things new again, which are not new, but just being regenerated. And therefore, the energies that we know about and don't know about will be regenerated also. And I'm going to get into an area that's going to be kind of unusual tonight. I don't want to get in it just yet, but dealing with uh, what's around you and what it actually is.
One of the things that you talked about, excuse me, and I think is very important, that is in the culture big time. I don't even think we think about it, and that's circumcision. And you were talking about it, and you were saying that we never vibrate. Could you explain what that is, the circumcision and the vibration, and what we talked about that? Because I think that's important.
Yes, in order for you to vibrate, to be able to get on that next level, you have to have all of your, some say 5 points, 6 points of energies in proper vibration and your chakras in proper alignment. Now, circumcision is a cutting of the foreskin of the male, which was a practice that was so-called created back in the day. But I'm here to tell you that that was a practice created to cut the black male off from being able to vibrate back to that higher conscious level, because you need all these points of vibration. It's just like if you cut one of your hands off, you're going to be limited in what you can do, even in this paradigm. So imagine that energy that's supposed to be in that palm, which makes balance in your astral body, is missing. So therefore, you may not be able to fly. You get me? You missing a piece of your airplane. So circumcision is part one of those important vibrational points in the growing area, also of a female also. And it's important because electrical flow flows through all of those points. Electricity. So if you sever an electrical line, you stop the flow of electricity. Okay, well, I'll fix it back. Okay, you'll put it back together, solder it, and put some electrical tape around it. Okay, the electricity flows again, but in that area, the electrons are turned around and tossed over over and over each other, and then they flow out, and that area becomes hotter than the normal flow in the regular part of the wire, if you follow me. So you have a disruption there, which can overheat and catch fire. So therefore, you have a problem in your astral body with any cuttings. You don't see wild animals with their penises hanging outside of their pouches. They are inside the pouches. They only come outside when you're ready to have sex. Now that seems strange, and you have been accustomed to cut away parts of. Okay, they cut away a woman's clitoris in Kenya in some parts. They circumcise them. And I've talked to one of them personally. There's no feelings down there in a sexual way at all. Very little to none, because that area cannot vibrate. Can you imagine having your women having your clitoris cut off? That part is sensuous. That part is a part of that sexual side of a female. The same way it is when you destroy that skin, it becomes numb. So therefore, it becomes. I'm not trying to give any sexual advice, but it becomes numb, not sensitive. It takes a lot of extra activity in order to get you where you need to be. You have cut away the sensitivity. I'm sorry, but I'm just being real.
So with that energy center cut, see, the you liken it to not having a hand. With that energy center cut, what does that mean to the whole being? And then not just a being, but a whole group, a whole section, a whole city of people. What does that lead up to? Everybody's doing that.
What happens is you have generations of people with their energy sources being severed, meaning that they would normally start to vibrate at a certain age, but they don't, meaning that that part of the system is not functioning properly, which means there's a breakdown in other parts of the system that we don't see, we don't notice, but it becomes damaged. Just like if you break your leg, it'll heal up, but you'll always feel a pain. You'll always feel some type of ache in that area because even though it's healed, but has been a disruption in that system, and you'll always can notice it even after death. After they look at your bones, you'll notice this. So, in order to be able to vibrate, we have lots of people that are unable to vibrate on that higher level. There were certain parts of teachings, and I'm not going to say what and when and where because there are many areas of teaching that will lead you to that higher level of consciousness. If a woman's breast had been damaged or scarred, uh, she was not able to be permitted in certain religious ceremonies because her vibration, she wouldn't be able to vibrate on on her nipples or anywhere on her nipples. Why? Because a woman's nipples, they respond. Why? Why they respond? Why when you touch them, they turn firm? Nobody never asked themselves that question. That they turn firm because they are actually doing something. There's a plant that when you touch the leaves, I think it's a cicada. I don't want to say the name of it, but the leaves are spread out, and when you rub your fingers across the leaves, all of them close all the way up. They close up just like you would close your fingers in on your hand. They respond to energy, this energy that we have forgotten, which which enables us to vibrate on that much higher level. It's not just for your husband to be sucking on, or.
So, I want to keep this conversation going because you hit on a lot of stuff last night, and we got a long way to go. So, I hope that information was valuable to you guys. I hope it's something that you can use. Another thing that you were talking about earlier, you were talking about the pyramids, and they've never sunk. And I want to know if you can elaborate on that to tell how the Earth rotates and moves and stuff, like cataclysms and stuff. And you can tell by all these monuments that haven't been in these cataclysms. Could you talk about that?
Yes, everybody says that Africa and Egypt and is the cradle of civilization. It is because certain places were set aside by the earth for the regeneration. Nobody can tell you how the pyramids were built because they were built in a time of a previous world. That world was submerged in water. They can prove that because part of the pyramids, the sides have shells on them as being in an ocean or in a body of water. The other sides on some of the other pyramids do not. So that means that as the earth shifted and tilted, water rose up from certain areas and covered certain parts in the regeneration. Same way ice covered certain parts in the regeneration of the worlds before this one. Fire before that one. So in touching on the pyramids, there was evidence that there was water, massive amounts of water on one side of the pyramids, which means that the water came up to that point, but there was still an area for people to survive. In other words, and it rose back from that same region and spread it throughout the earth. So those people were led by the powers that be to a certain place to remain for the regeneration, for the upturning of the earth. The monuments, many of them are underwater that were in the previous world. And dry land rose up and took its place. So shall be, the dry lands will disappear and those worlds will rise again. And you will see people going studying those monuments and not understanding how they came to be. Just be prepared. Prepare yourself.
I would say this. I would say this on that. When you travel to certain parts of the world, you should get to the coastlines of some of these places and see what's underwater close to these places. Because, like he said, a lot of these are different worlds before us. We used to didn't have money. How you can change it now? We're moving to a whole nother place. Things that they did in 1900 here, they won't be it's not done anymore like that. So things are changing. And what the brothers are saying here is, we have to understand this change and go with the flow, so we won't be affected by it. So we have to know these things. And I'm just bringing this brother on to explain certain things so we'll get it. We'll recognize the symbols when it hit, because we got to look at it from a different perspective. We can't look at it from the same perspective that we always look at it from, because it doesn't benefit us. So when he says that the pyramids, you can tell by on the side of the pyramids where they used to water, that means that there was an earth shift, because the pyramids are huge. There was an earth shift, and you can start to see it happening now with the way mankind is doing this planet. It's horrible, just to get money out of it, for the love of money. We're doing this to the planet Earth. Hey, and like that, like we said last night, we'll be off this planet in a minute. So I just want, and I want to go into the next question with this. The actions of mankind to save themselves has become a curse, because they put that curse out to others. Could you talk about that? What is that? What is the actions that mankind did to curse the earth?
Well, on our actions, we send vibrations out into the universe, into the ether. They don't go away. They are out there. And I don't want to get deep into that part of it, but it's energy goes out, and when it goes out with a purpose, and it comes back with a purpose. So over the years, people have cheated each other out of money, cheated each other through finances, dirty deals, false illusions, and all types of witchcraft and witchery, crooked deeds that have gone out, and they have become waxed wealthy by these things, which they continue to do it more and more and more. It comes to its pinnacle, and then it has to uh, fade its way out. So in the process of its fading its way out, the same vibration that made it successful will be the same thing that will be its demise, because it has to come back. That's the old sowing and reaping thing. If you knew what form it would come back, you would be ready for it. You would be prepared, and you would have your guards up. But when it returns in the same form, but different, where you don't understand it. You working one thing, thinking it's protecting you, and it's actually your curse, because it put it out there. Generational curses, things that's been put out there, is to be reaped by your sons, your daughters.
You, a lot of those generational curses, to me, they fall up under, a lot of it has a religious context behind it. And I think we look at this religious thing as something that has been helpful to the community. I look at it and I see that it's bullshit. It's really harmed the community more than it's helped. Hiding from the Almighty God. What do you mean when you say that, hiding from the Almighty God?
All right, we all know that we are gods, and nobody really understands what that means. Now, back long time ago, in the previous worlds, when we could actually fulfill our full God selves, Everything was one. So therefore, there was no hiding. But as time went on, we read a story, and I'm not pushing Bible on anybody, but there are always relics left behind that you can use. You tear down a house, there's a piece of wood left behind that you can use for another project. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to push the Bible, but there's a relic that was left behind in that book that will give you understanding about something that I'm trying to say. Some things you just can't come out because therefore people use it. I'm here talking to the conscious people, those who can understand what I'm saying. But in the Bible, the Lord God, the Almighty Lord God, listen to me carefully, was walking in the garden. So the story goes. And he asked Adam, where are you? If you are the Lord God Almighty and you know all things, why you couldn't find your own creation?
Huh?
Why you couldn't find your own creation? Now you God, Lord God Almighty. You knoweth all, of all, is all, and of all. Why you was asking, why it was written, he asked, where are you? And it said they hid themselves. How can you hide from God? So I'm not pushing the Bible story. I'm trying to get you to understand something by using your spiritual God self.
In that story you were talking about when you were saying God couldn't find his creation, they were hiding amongst the trees. And when you say that we are the trees, that the trees are people but in a whole different form, could you elaborate on that? The relationship between trees and people.
All right, I'm gonna tell you something that it may drive some of y'all to say, "Hey, I'm gonna click off the channel." That's fine. I'm not here to persuade anyone of anything. But back in the worlds before this world, you got to go back. And I'm gonna give you some cliches to let you know where I'm going before I get there. Maybe it'll ease the ride. In Hollywood, you hear, "I want to be a star." We're gonna make you a superstar. In the previous worlds, when the earth regenerated, we had a choice. What we wanted, what would you want to be in order to continue life on this beautiful planet? What would you want to be? To continue that Eden will be still there going when your spirit has been recycled again. When you come back and return, but you want to return and it's better. So what would you want to be? I'm gonna tell you what a lot of things said, a lot of our ancestors said they wanted to be in the regeneration. A lot of them became trees. They were rebirthed as trees. The stars in the heavens were recycled. Those were people. Those are people that you're looking at. Trees are people. You say, how they are people? They came from a seed. Well, how did your child originate? From a seed, from a man's seed, which was planted in a womb, which is the earth is the womb. You plant the seed in the earth, which is the womb, from dealing with ethereal knowledge, and it grows a human being. You will see some of these things in the Voynich Code. People are actually pictured as inside of plants, growing inside of plants because that's what they are. in the regeneration. We talking about worlds before this world. They were regenerated. Some wanted to be plants. They wanted to be plants. Some wanted to be trees. Some wanted to be regenerated stars. Some wanted to be anything that made this earth more better. But man got into cloning. He got into cross breeding animals, trying to make it better. And now look at what he's doing. And we need some drought resistant this and some debt resistant that, and we're gonna genetically alter this for what? His own destruction. Nature knows the plan. Nature knows the plan. But we accept all of this garbage that he has created for us to eat, drink, and be merry. So therefore, are we worthy for the regeneration in the next world to come? You want to cross over with a diseased spiritual awareness, with a tarnished, hateful, evil, corrupted spiritual awareness to rebuild the next earth. That's where you hear about the Noah story. Oh, he chose his family to rebuild the earth. That's what same thing. It's the same thing, but it's just been watered down to the Noah story. But that was the regeneration of the earth. So who would you choose? I said that on the previous one. Who would you choose to return to make sure this earth was better? Or what would you return as? Now, those who got those hateful and evil and tarnished spirits, you're going to be recycled. That's why we got rocks. That's a cold place just to be a rock, just there. But you know what? What about returning as a flowing stream? Huh? And we know that a stream that flows from the top of a mountain picks up every piece of information in that water when it reached the bottom. You can tell every mineral and everything that was in it that it passed through all the way at the bottom because it became part of it. It mingled with it. Same way you take a piece of metal that's not a magnet and you lay it on a magnet and just let it sit there. You ain't got to do it. Just let it lay there. After a while, it's going to become a magnet. Why? Because it has mingled with it. What are you mingling with? What are your sons and your daughters mingling with? Entities, things that you have no idea what you're mingling with. And that goes for all races of people. You don't know what you're mingling with. They have become shape shifters. And like the movie Avatar, I'm able to look like you in order to infiltrate the camp.
So so people who vibrate on that low base, they be you said they in the regeneration, you were saying they become food. Explain that. Said they become food for living beings. Explain that, elaborate on that, and also give an example of how that's done now that we see it, because we know it's going to happen. This is going to regenerate. It can't keep going like this. So where do we line up in all of this? And when you say food for living things, hit on that.
All right, we take animals, and that animal has a soul. It's a living thing. They can cry, and they know when they're getting ready to be slaughtered. Those things are not that dumb and stupid. They are here for a purpose, not for what we think they're here for. And we take them and we use them as food. We slaughter them in all types of ways, and we use them as food for us to eat. All right. In the regeneration, if you are one of those people that walks around and your vibration is always on that lowest state, then you will be used to sustain the living. Rocks don't do anything, but they're a medium to sustain it. Dirt is a medium to sustain living things. Now, the seed, if it falls into the dirt, it's more than just dirt, don't you think? Because guess what? It's going to sprout into another living thing that's going to breathe. It's going to exist. It's going to absorb sun. It's going to be happy and sad, hey, if you will. But dirt is just dirt. So whether you do whatever you do, you will be part of the regeneration. What part will you be a part of? The dirt, the rock, or will you be a, check it out, stars. They have come to know they are actually living things. How can that be? They are alive when they are looked at with high power telescopes. They are not just solid balls of rock. They are alive. So how do you explain that? When you vibrate and you are here to assist the earth, then you can become a star, a real star, not the one that's being tossed around like in Hollywood. You can actually become a star, a watcher, a watcher, huh? A watcher, a one with that commands and wields infinite power. A watcher. Can you imagine being a celestial watcher? Everybody must always behold your image and your glory, the light of the way, the pathway, which have sent many ships around this whole planet. And the constellations are means of communication for all those beings in the cosmos. You're one of them. You're a major player in everything existing to that next level. How grand can that be? Or you just the dirt to be overturned, like a clod when you go out and overturn the dirt for your garden.
So with that piece you just gave us, we should take that, and this is what I'm assuming, because the regeneration is taking place. We can try to pretend like it's not taking place, but it's taking place as we go on, and we can see its forces every day. What are we to do, or what are we seeing now? So let's say if a regeneration to take place today, it would be a lot of motherfucking rocks out there,
Hmm.
a whole bunch of rocks. Being that that's the reality of it all, I'm with the reality. I don't like to say stuff and it's not true, but the reality with all the rocks, what do people who are conscious, what are people who are trying to get in that quiet state of mind, in that quiet space, so they can listen to themselves? You're not listening to me, you're not listening to teacher, you're listening to yourself, because you are a part of this planet, and this planet talks to you like it talks to everything that it creates. How do we get on that level where we can talk to the where we're in that state where we're, you know, with one with our creator?
Okay, don't let me lose that thought. But I got to say this. Some people might say, "Well, I like being a rock." Okay, well, there are cold, dead rocks floating around in space. Now, what if they said one is on his way to hit the Earth? You like being a rock? You would hate that rock, wouldn't you? You would hate that rock. That damn rock is gonna hit the Earth. Now we got to all go underground. Now we got to all get in bunkers, and a few of y'all gonna be left out, wouldn't you? So that's a rock you would hate. But you would be saved. And some of y'all would be saved in a cold, dark prison as a rock to float around. So when mankind rises up to become wicked and evil on every level, we'll need you. We'll need your cold, dark rock self to come down and strike the earth and start it all over again. And then you become a rock all over again, trapped in your cold, dark prison, waiting for the next regeneration. Unless somebody breaks that cycle down the line, because hey, that's another story. But you want to be the one that becomes a part of breaking that cycle of dead existence to a portion of living existence. Everything strives to live, not just exist. And if you look at some of the people walking around, they just exist without a purpose, without a purpose at all, without a meaning, without anything that drives them, but just exist to another day.
So those people could be classified as the food, because it's like, listen, everybody counts. Everybody has a voice to say. That's why African Americans ain't Africans. I want to hear what you have to say. I think that's one of the main problems that we've always had is listening to what somebody else said, and the next generation finding out that this person wasn't shit. And now we're left with a whole bunch of broken people who believe in something that's not true and doesn't mean anything to us. We've been doing that too long. So this is why these brothers are important. Everything that's important, everything we think a tree is important. If there wasn't no trees, where would we be? If it wasn't no other critters or animals, where would we be? If it wasn't no flowing streams, where would we be? If it wasn't no stars, where would we be? We can't keep focusing on just me, 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 me. It ain't about you. It's about your fit in. Where do you fit in? What do you bring to the table? And all if you can bring is your hand looking like cups, you're no use. We can't play around with life. Life gives us everything we need. It's always been there for us. Are we there for it? Will we be there for it? Lately, it hasn't been like that. So that's why I bring these brothers on so they can tell you the real, so you can understand where you're at. When you were talking earlier about us being our ancestors, they were into such a high spiritual vibration that when they passed on, they wanted to be flowing streams. They wanted to be trees. They wanted to be different type of animals. They wanted to be so. Where have we lost that? How aren't we connected to nature along those ways? What happened right there?
The great forgetting, because things that wanted to really be and exist could not exist perfectly in that paradigm. They could not exist in that environment. Therefore, it had to create an environment more better for it to exist. Everybody will tell you that a lot of the old trees that were massive, that almost reached up into lower space, were cut down in the previous worlds. Why? You have to ask yourself why. These massive trees, well, Avatar tells you why. That's one classic story that I tell everybody. Go watch it. They were all simply hell bent on getting rid of this damn tree. See, so there are relics left behind by fantasy, movies, all these things. We just got to know what is digestible and what is rejectable. And you know that through what's in your spirit. Now, why would you say I accept a movie like Avatar? Because guess what? It's too many other facts that's left behind dealing with trees. And we must get a real good understanding as why trees are so important. Because if you wanted to become something else, knowing that your children's children were going to be in this Garden of Eden, and you were eventually going to return, your essence, your spirit, what would you be? What would you want to be? If you had to be that for a time and you were going to be regenerated to return as a living, breathing organism, to promote life, even as another spiritual being, because back, way back, we were just beings of light, beings of light. How do I know this? Because hey, I've seen it, and so can you. So those beings of light were regenerated into beings of existence, and so on and so on and so on until it began to degeneration. So now it has needs regeneration, degeneration, regeneration. We're at the bottom.
If this is going through with everybody, if you're feeling what this brother saying, everybody hit the number one. Because what I don't want to do, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. There's things that are happening on this earth. And as the indigenous people to America, we have to understand what we are supposed to do. We are here for a reason. We're not here to try nobody else's shoes on. We're not here to buy other people's product. We're here because, as this brother's saying, this planet is going through a regeneration. They have messed this planet up with the Fukushima, with the oil spill down there in the Gulf, with all these catastrophes going on in the earth. And the earth is going to have to cleanse itself from all that bullshit. Where do we play in that? There's all kind of machines coming up. We talked about last night, CERN. This is what I want to talk about. You mentioned CERN last night as we're talking about, as this earth is going through this regeneration, people who are making all these changes know what's happening, know they're playing against a force that's not to be played with. You're talk about CERN, because I think a lot of us are heard of CERN, but we really don't know what it is. Could you tell us about CERN?
Well, I'm going to be real with you. The only thing I know about CERN is what I know in my ethereal experience. And only thing I will say is this, because the information that you see with all the dancing and the demonic dancing and the dead horse heads, they did big grand rituals in the opening of CERN. I mean, grand wizardry dancing and plays that they put on. And you can see all of the images that will tell you exactly what we are dealing with and who we are dealing with. They are not hiding these things. They are showing you this is the powers that be. These are the powers that are on the earth right now. And now you're seeing it with all of the crime and mass murdering and shoot. So these things have been awakened. Why have they been awakened? For the war. They're getting the troops together for the battle. This battle that they think that's going to happen. It's all a figure of the dead people's imagination, because the earth is the only one that's gonna do the battling. You see how we can promote war and think that hey, we're gonna win something that we can't win. You can't win against the earth changes, but it's somebody we must fight. So I guess what? I'm gonna come fight your ass. No, I'm gonna fight you. I know I got to fight some damn body, but I just can't figure out who the hell it is. It's the earth. You can't fight the earth. So therefore I come fight. I'll make up somebody to fight. Come on, give me somebody to fight. I'll go fight them on a crutch or a walking cane, a walker. If they responsible, let's go fight them. You got to fight yourself. The earth is sending the same tricks back to them that they sent out into the earth. So now the earth is using the same tricks back on those who are destined to be destroyed in the regeneration.
In order not to be destroyed in the regeneration, because trust me, I get you when you gotta go. You said it last night. You gotta go. If you are not a part of the life loving, life producing, life giving mentality, if you are not about life, then you only have to be about death. Explain what'll happen to death.
Death is something that does not exist in the pure worlds. It's just light, energy, vibration, sound. It's no such thing as death. But in the existence that we know, it's considered death, that you no longer exist, that you're dead and gone. That is not the case. By no means is that the case. And a lot of people say, well, when people die, they some have experienced going to fire and being put into tormentous situations and then sent back. Yes, we are considered material, just like you would consider steel or rubies or gold. You like that gold ring. Well, don't you know it had to go through the fire in order to get that shape? It had to go through some metal beatings to get to that point. And it had to come, gold had to come through some fire in order to be gold, which was placed perfectly in the earth to keep its harmonic balance. But now you wearing it around your necks and all on your toes and everywhere. And what are you using it for? I'm just using it to look good. What's wrong with that? The purpose of it is gone. Now it has become a cursed thing to you.
Listen, y'all, this is the kind of stuff we got to hear. This is what I mean. We have to change. We have to regenerate also. If we see in the earth is going through regeneration, that's a sign to us saying that we have to regenerate also because we get our cue from the earth. We have to be able to look at the stars. We have to be able to look, see how the rivers are flowing. We have to look at what the animals are doing. We have to look at everything in nature and what is it's doing because that gives us our cue because we are a part of it. This is why I have the guest on this program that I have. We are earth people. The earth created us here in, I call it Central North America because I call Canada North America. What you call the USA, I call Central North America. The people who live on that landmass in that area, this is for you. We are not Africans. We are not all these people that these people say we are. We are the people that America produced. I know many of you don't understand and don't believe that, but that's what's happening. So the information that this brother sharing is for you, directly for you. So he went to go take a bathroom break. So we're going to talk to him even when he comes back. But listen, you are a part of this. Your footsteps count in making this. You are part of this whole, you and your children are, your mom and daddy was, your grandmom and granddaddy was, and you are. You have a say. Say and do the right thing.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get a little something to wet my mouth. But I don't want to bore any of y'all with useless rhetoric. Again, what I say is coming from my soul. I've never come on this channel to try to impress anyone. All I want to do is just tell you that if I've been somewhere and I can come back and tell somebody something that's positive, if you want to hear it, I'm going to tell you. If you don't, guess what? No problem. No feelings are hurt. Because guess what? We all got a road that we traveling. Your road is not my road. My road is not your road. But you best believe in the end, we all will serve a purpose somewhere. Whether you held in chains of fire until you are brought to a point of perfection, or whether you are tossed back into a river and let the water wash you a little bit. There was a story that I read in an ancient book. If y'all let me tell this story, I will. They were gathering rocks to make a temple, and they went far and wide gathering stones. They gathered some that was in the river, some was smooth. You know, stones when they've been in water, they be smooth. Some were gathered up from other parts that were jagged. But as they brought the stones back to make this temple or to make this house, they were put in the hands of other masters who would shape them in order for them to fit. The same thing that you see people doing now, that's nothing new. It's temples that are more ornate than any building that you see built now, carved with statues of human beings. And some even got astronauts carved on that were made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago before they even thought of astronauts. Come on, people, wake up. Just wake up just a little bit. How did they were able to carve all these intricate carvings that look way more better than the buildings that they're building now? They can't even duplicate it. It takes too much time for them, not for the ancients. But anyway, they were looking for stones. But anyway, these stones, some were so scarred and marred, they couldn't use them. They could be used, but they had to go back to the quarry to be hammered some more, and beat some more, and sanded some more. So this process of being regenerated, if you're that hateful person, guess what? You're gonna have to go through some changes. It's not what you think. You're not just gonna ride the bed of roses. So whatever form that you're in, it's gonna be. You, well, people can say, well, if you come back as an animal, you could be eaten. Once in the new world, we won't have to eat animals. In the regeneration, see that you're seeing what the barbarous world has become, to eat other souls, to even eat each other. Matter of fact, if you go back in history, they've been eating each other. So hey, that's nothing new. They've been eating each other. They just told them you need to stop.
The regeneration, it's going to affect, or it's affecting all of us. And we just have to know what to be, how to be thinking, what your place is on this planet. Now, 2020 is the year of this census. I would say to use the census is to find other family members in your bloodline. That's what you use the census for. Got to know your place on the planet, people. As indigenous people to America, what you must do. And I liked when teacher talked about last night getting into your space where you get in contact with yourself. And that's all we here at African American try to push. Get in line with yourself. Find out who you are. Who's your mom and dad? Who's your grandmother and grandfather? Who helped bring you forth? Because if they were birthed by an American, a people from America, that's who you are. And you have to start being that. Sorry. So, teacher, give us your last words, your closing words about regeneration, what we have to do to regenerate, what to look for in this regeneration.
All right. Well, you want to secure your place in this bliss that's coming in this new place. So people say, well, okay, you said all this. What do we do? The first thing is you got to go to your dark place and wait. Now, if you listen to the first one, I told you the steps. But I'm not saying wait 2 or 3 days, but it takes time. You may get in there and not see nothing I stayed in there 20 minutes. I ain't seen shit. Okay, you might be a little more hard hit than the average person. It may need a little bit more cracking to get to you. So therefore, you go back again and wait. If you don't see, you go back again and you go back again. And this time, stop your eyeballs from looking around. Let the muscles in them relax, where they're just totally relaxed, where you're not moving at all. There's no strain in the muscle of your eyeball. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That muscle in the eyeballs got to be totally relaxed. Go back again. You don't see nothing, go back again. Eventually, guess what? They're gonna be persistence. You keep knocking at the door. Guess what? The ancestors are gonna finally come and break through the walls of all of that stuff that's been built up around you to keep you from being able to vibrate, keep you from being able to make communication, keep you from being able to make contact. They love you. They crying out and screaming for to just listen so we can direct your path. They done been fooled. That necklace and that ring, they sit up and rub it and twist and turn on it and look at it instead of looking at me. What about me? Your ancestors need you in order for you to make their path clear in the regeneration so they can have a chance to come back as that flowing stream, as that tree. Like that song said, like a tree that's planted by the water, I shall not be moved. And I ain't never claimed to be a singer. But some of y'all know that old song that they want to be like a tree planted by the waters. Why? The song said, I want to be like a tree planted by the waters. I want to be that tree to see my descendants feed and eat from my fruit. Huh? Hey, y'all, it's good to be with y'all. It's good to be able to see y'all and feel your energy. Believe it or not, I feel y'all's energy on this line. I feel y'all's energy. Some, you know, I I I don't even want to go into it, but when you come up out of that state of superficial, I'm gonna put it like this, and you know what I'm talking about. That superficial lens of looking at things right on the surface. But the reason why you listening to me, you know I'm much deeper than that. Much deeper than that. And I call out peace to you.
Thank you, teacher. So, still up in Memphis. This is what we give you in Memphis. So, want to thank the brother for coming on, sharing with us, and we want to thank you for coming in and sitting with us. We know it's Christmas, it's the holidays. A lot of people out shopping, making snowmen and shit. But thank you guys for sharing with us. We'll see you next week sometime. We'll be back in Birmingham. Thank you guys for listening to us tonight. Thanks. Okay, so we only got